Hello to all of our newly admitted Tritons for fall 2021. Whether you're joining us from inside the US or from the other side of the world, on behalf of the International Students and Programs Office, also known as ISPO, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Chanel, and I'm a compliance coordinator here at ISPO. A few housekeeping items before we begin today. First, you're on listen only mode, which means that you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Next, we're recording, so this webinar will be posted at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. And lastly, please use the Q&A box to get your questions answered. Even if we aren't able to answer them today through chat or during our Q&A at the end of the session, we'll do our best to make sure we provide answers by updating our coronavirus FAQ page for newly admitted students. And now let's begin. We're happy to welcome to our session Andrew Wielder from Student Financial Services, Marianne Frapwell from Care at SARC, Don Carlos from Student Legal Services, and Sheldon King from the UC San Diego Police Department. So our first portion is going to be from the UC San Diego Police Department. Please welcome Sheldon King. And with that, I'll hand it over.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Sergeant Sheldon King. I've been at the police department for 15 years now, going on 16. I love doing this presentation, reaching out to the international students. Throughout this presentation, you will hear about scams, pretty much from a couple of different of us. And that is because our international students continue to get scammed out of money. So next slide, please. So with that being said, I'll start the presentation. Can I continue? One more time. So our international students, our community members, are targeted by scammers. They take advantage of you. They could be anywhere in the world. It's usually online where these scams happen, not too much in person. So just be aware of the different emails you may receive or text messages you may receive, because they could, in fact, be a scam. Next slide, please. So the largest loss at UCSD, just to make a point of scamming, currently is $322,000, and that was in the year of 2020. Next slide, please. And if you want to know how much that is your currency, I couldn't get all of them on there. If you want me to add yours later, you go back one. That's how much it is in some of the currency around the world. So next slide, please. So the common scams and the IRS, international students, they always say their IRS is coming to get you, they're coming to arrest you. That is not true. They try to call you on your cell phone. The IRS will never call you on your cell phone. They will only send you letters. So keep that in mind. They'll try to sell you different items. They will tell you they're a king, a queen, a prince from another country, and they will give you money. Credit card fraud, threats of arrest, and that's the biggest one right now, the threats of arrest. Your country will not fly to the United States and come and arrest you. If you do receive that threat, come to the police department and we will take care of that. There are no threats of holding your diploma unless it's from the University of California. So go talk to ISPO or any of your resources around the campus. And they will also threaten your visa, offer to pay your tuition, and third-party payments, which we do not do at the campus. Next slide, please. So do not give out any of your personal information. Anyone could be anyone on the internet. So keep that in mind. Do not send nude photos of yourself, because it does happen. You know, international students will come in, ask the police department to retrieve those photos. It's not what you see on television. It's not possible at this time. So they'll take those nude photos and threaten to send them to your friends and your family. So be aware of that. All right, do not meet with anyone you've never met before if you're here on campus, and do not send money to anyone you have never met or you do not know personally. They will extort you for your money and not care. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about you crying. All they want is your money. So next slide, please. So one more time. So beware of who you're talking to. People will show up on the opposite end of your internet, and they will look like that, but in reality, they look like me. So you never know who you're speaking to. All right, and for the males, just make sure you may be talking to someone on the other end, and they're from another country, and they'll try to extort you for your money. So keep that in mind as well. Identity theft. So clues that someone has stolen your identity. If you receive unexpected withdrawals from your bank, if you do not give bills or other mail, if they start to go elsewhere, debt collectors start calling you if you're unfamiliar with accounts on your credit reports, if you do have a credit report, and the IRS again notifies you that more than one tax return was filed. And again, that would be through a letter and not through a phone call. Next slide, please. So ways to protect yourself. Place a fraud alert on your credit report. Open a new bank account. If you come to the States, get an American bank account. If you have an overseas bank account, there's not too much the banks here in the United States or the police department can do to help you. The UCSD Police Department, we're not going to fly over to another country to help you get your money back. That's not going to happen. All right, so get an American bank account once you get here. Shred your documents, strengthen your password, check your credit reports, guard your Visa ID, passport number, social security number, and be smart about your social media. Recently, the vaccine cards, people were posting them that they were vaccinated and it has name and birthday and tons of information. Don't do that, all right? So be smart about what you put on your social media and know the signs of phishing and email scams. Now they're sending out links of Netflix and PayPal. Hey, your account has been suspended. Click this link. So be careful with email scams and phishing scams. And keep your mail safe. So have it go directly to your PO box on campus or wherever you are, and just be careful and not throw it in the trash with your address and your name or anything like that. So next slide, please. So what to do if you're a victim? You want to lock down the problem account, immediately call whatever account has been tampered with or scammed or whatever is going on with it. Immediately call that service and get it locked down. Sign up for a credit monitoring service, review your credit card, bank statements for unauthorized charges. And for those who are scammed and you're in another country, and your account is in another country, that's the phone number you can call and they can assist. What they can do, I can't give you an answer to that, but they can assist. And you can also come to the police department, and that is the phone number for the police department to call us and get additional information, and we'll take a report if it's here on campus and in the United States. So next slide, please. So police enforcement on campus. So for those who are on campus, we do enforcement. All right, so next slide, please. So in the United States, welcome to the land of the free. Next slide, please. But it's really not that free. So we do have federal laws. We have our state laws, the state of California, penal codes and vehicle codes. We have our municipal codes for the county of San Diego, and we also have our UCSD codes. Next slide. So what is normal to you may be illegal in America. Next slide, please. So when contacted or detained by the police, please do not run. Please do not argue. Please do not touch. Please do not resist. Tell the truth and don't lie. Lying is a crime, believe it or not. And go with the flow and stay calm. You know, a lot of these guys, all these guys are nice guys. So they're not out here trying to punish. Next slide, please. So these are normal common tickets and arrests that happen on campus. Resisting arrest, when people believe they're in the right, in reality they're in the wrong. Vandalism, urinating in public, minor transporting alcohol. So if you're not 21, you're not even supposed to have alcohol in your vehicle. And the legal age to drink is 21. So under the age of 21, you're not to have any alcohol in your possession or in your vehicle. If you're gonna have a party, you better know who's at your party. Furnishing alcohol to a minor is serious out here. So if you have someone who says they're 21 and in reality they're 19, you can be cited for furnishing alcohol to a minor. All right, and then consumption of alcohol and marijuana as a minor, you can also be cited for that too. Next slide, please. Open container in public, walking around with liquor, even if you're 21, is a crime. If you have a red Solo cup, it is a crime to have, I apologize, to have walk around with an unsealed container. All right, if your bottle is cracked, that's considered an open container. Next slide, please. If you're not 21, do not drink. The baby holding the bottle up there is the exact same thing. So if you're not 21, do not drink. Any alcohol in your system, you could receive a citation for that. Next slide, please. Drunk in public. If you're unable to care for yourself or care for others, and we come in contact with you, you would be considered drunk in public intoxication, and it is illegal in the United States. So be responsible when you're drinking. Next slide, please. Giving out false information to the police is also considered a crime. All right, if you're not 21 and you have someone's ID that is 21, that is considered a crime. So just be smart, wait till you're 21 and have those drinks then. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We've already gone through that one. Next slide. Oh, there we go. All right, so make smart decisions. Usually the police don't walk up to you and ask you for different things. Your neighbors call us. So just make smart decisions. You know, no loud music after hours. You may be done with your finals. You may be done with class, but your neighbors still have to work and they still have to live their life. So no loud music after hours, and be respectful of them. Know your limits. If you're going to drink, have a number where you're going to cut it off. Stay with your friends or a group. If you're in an area unfamiliar and you feel uneasy, so stay with your friends or group. Try to stay under the radar. Don't draw attention to yourself. And if you're going to drink, again, drink responsibly. Next slide, please. On campus, we do have RSOs and CSOs. They're students and they're civilians who work with the police department, and they help out with those different functions. Next slide, please. And if you need to contact the police department, our information is at the top, the 858-534-4357. Or if you have any questions to ask, you can ask a copy of UCSD. And if you want to speak with an RSO or CSO, they do provide escorts. If it's late at night and you're leaving the lab, they can escort you from one place to another if it's on campus or within the surrounding area of the campus. And again, my name is Sheldon King. My email is at the bottom. If you have any questions outside of this presentation, please let me know. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheldon. All right, up next, we have John Carlos from Student Legal Services. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, thank you, Chanel. So yes, I'm John Carlos Sr. I'm an attorney and I'm the Director of Student Legal Services here at UC San Diego. So my office provides free, confidential counseling, education, and referrals to all currently registered UCSD students. So what that means is, as long as you are students at UCSD, you have a free lawyer. In fact, 2 free lawyers to come talk to about any and all legal issues, questions, or problems that you might be having. You've likely picked up from Corporal King's part of the presentation that the biggest thing that we worry about for you and that y'all have to worry about is scams. The good news is that there is, we're a really safe campus. And yes, things happen. And I did notice in the Q&A that there was mention about a shooting that occurred that actually, I don't believe that it occurred around University City, but yes, the victim was found not too far. Didn't happen on campus, fortunately. Crime does occur, so it's of course always important to be vigilant. The biggest thing, like I said, that we worry about for you and that we want you to pay attention to is with respect to scams. If you could please go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about that and about the things that I'm going to be talking about. So there we go. I'm going to be hitting the scams over and over again. Talk a little bit about insurance. and just a few considerations. And then lastly, for folks who are living off campus, I'll talk a little bit about some considerations for that. Because in my office, that's actually the biggest issue that we see. So as I said previously, we help students with all types of legal issues, questions, or problems. So whether it's that you're living off campus and your landlord tries to take your security deposit afterwards, or maybe you want you want to talk to a lawyer to review your lease before you sign it, or any other contract. If you get a ticket, I hope you don't get a ticket. But if you do, whether it's a parking ticket or other type of ticket, if you have questions about your health insurance and what it covers, whatever legal issues, questions, or problems you might have when it comes to legal services. Obviously, we are not the experts when it comes to F1 visas and OPT and CPT and things like that. That's something where you're definitely going to want to go talk to the folks at ISPO first. But for other things, you can absolutely and should absolutely come talk to us. Now, in terms of scams, it almost always happens that it's either by fear, and some of the things that Corporal King were talking about, where yes, they're going to come arrest you or take your visa. Or I had a friend and colleague on campus who actually their whole office received calls saying that they had jury duty, federal jury duty, and because they didn't show up for it, they're going to go be arrested. It happens particularly in January, February, March, involving taxes. I've even seen it on Handshake, which is the UCSD Career Services website for jobs. I've seen it at the offcampushousing.ucsd.edu website. No, it's the official UCSD website for advertising spaces places to live off campus. A lot of times it's going to be, hey, student, I have a job for you, or I have a place for you, or I want to buy something from you on Craigslist or some other third party online. I'm going to send you a bunch of money by check. You send me a part of that, a little portion of it, but I'm going to way overpay you. And then unfortunately, it's found out that, that the check, when it arrives, is fake, and you've already sent your money out to the scammer. And that's the end of that. Unfortunately, you're probably never going to see that money again. So be really careful whenever there's anything involving an offer to pay you more than anything that's being discussed. It's always best to do things in person. I said that one of them is fear, where they tell you that, they're going to arrest you, or you're going to get deported or removed or something. The other common thing, unfortunately, is, they want to try to take advantage of the possibility of making some money. So that's where the depositing a fake check thing comes in. It happens all the time. Folks are trying to sell stuff on Craigslist. It's almost guaranteed now that if you post on Craigslist, you're going to get a couple of fake scam responses offering to pay you more than what you're selling the thing for. Again, Social Security, IRS, Homeland Security, ICE, Customs, the government, they're not going to call you. Okay, they just don't do it. They're either going to mail you a letter, snail mail, old-fashioned, or they're going to show up to your door if it's serious enough. So do your best to ignore those phone calls, ignore those emails, and contact Student Legal Services, or contact the police department, or contact ISPO, contact your colleague, your support network on campus if you're not sure. As I said, I've seen these scams when renting, and I don't know, it's so tricky these days to find a place to live off campus. And I don't know if any folks who are in this presentation are still looking, but be really careful. Do not send your money if you can before you see a place, before you know that the place is legitimate. And there are actually ways where you can find out who owns property. You can do a property search. And I'd say it's totally worth it before you send any security deposit or first month's rent. Do some work and do the best you can to figure out if the place is legitimate. For jobs, as I said, I've seen it on Handshake. Fake merchandise. This is always something that comes up. People, unfortunately, students get scammed out of shoes or clothes or other things. There are the trustworthy websites, but a lot are absolutely not. So be careful. Anytime there's a suggestion that you need to give somebody, prepaid cards, iTunes gift, anything involving gift cards is a scam. Almost guarantee it. And as I said, it's best to do business in person. Do not send any money until you at least have the physical thing in hand or seen the contract, that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So hopefully we've scared you enough about scams that your first thought will be, okay, I need to check to make sure before I pay some money, even though the scammer might say, don't tell anybody you're going to get arrested. You need to talk to folks to make sure it's valid. Insurance, it's not a scam, but it's something to consider. Every country in the world has different sort of insurance rules when it comes to health insurance, car insurance, and general liability insurance and other things. But a couple of things that I want to point out. One, in terms of medical or dental insurance, this is always tricky. You got to talk to your insurance company to make sure that you are covered for a particular thing. And this happens a lot, unfortunately, where a medical or dental provider will say, hey, I suggest Invisalign. I suggest you do, get this test done or that test done. You need to find out first if insurance is going to cover it before you agree to that. Unfortunately, it's the way it is here, but you do want to make sure that you want to keep in mind that just because a dental, your dentist is saying you get Invisalign and maybe even suggest that your insurance should cover it, that doesn't mean it'll actually get covered. You need to check with your insurance before you go ahead with that. If you're renting off campus, and if you're renting on campus for that matter, get good renter's insurance. Get the best renter's insurance that you can afford. That includes personal property insurance to cover your clothes and your laptop and your phone and that sort of thing. And by the way, you should keep a copy of any receipts or invoices for the big ticket, the expensive things, so that you can prove that you own them in case of loss, theft, or damage. I know that they came in handy for me when I came home after a vacation and found that my bikes had been stolen, as well as 6 pairs of my Air Jordans. Oh, it was brutal. Try to get insurance for flood damage from plumbing. And also another type that I always recommend is loss of use coverage in case there's a flood or there's a plumbing burst or something and you're not able to live in a place for a while. Contact my office if you have any questions about renter's insurance. I don't have a particular company that I would recommend, but I just say get the best that you can afford. It's generally not very much. If you're going to rent a car because you're going to take the winter break or the spring break to go drive somewhere else or to check out other parts of the country, get the best automobile insurance that you can. Liability insurance is not enough. That only covers you if it's your fault. It won't cover you for many other types of things. We have sort of an introduction to California and U.S. law, a PDF that's posted on our website, and there's the link to that if you have any, if you want to learn more about these subjects. Next slide, please. And I believe this next slide is, I think, the last slide for me. So in terms of off-campus housing, keep in mind that whoever you live with who is signed on to the lease, they are agreeing to be liable just as you are. And under the law, there's a rule of joint and several liability, and that's a fancy way of saying that each tenant and each person who has signed the lease, in other words, if there's a co-signer or guarantor, that each person who's signed on to the lease, it can be held responsible for the entirety of the lease obligation. What that means is if the October rent comes due and you pay your share, let's say you've got 2-3 other roommates, you pay your share, but one of the other roommates doesn't pay their share. Not only can you get in trouble by the landlord, but can the other person, but the landlord can actually take legal action against everybody on the lease because everybody signed it. The same rule applies if you have a roommate who's breaking the no overnight guest policy, or another roommate who has a pet and there's a no pet policy. The rules apply to everybody signed on, so keep that in mind. Also, think about getting a roommate agreement that really sort of clarifies exactly how much each person is paying for what and whose obligations are what, that sort of a thing. Check out our website under at sls.ucsd.edu, sample forms and agreements. You can find a roommate agreement as well as a few other documents that you can use. The biggest issue that we see at Student Legal Services is off-campus housing and students trying to get their money, their security deposit back after they've moved out of the place. So it's a long time, presumably from now, but the best advice I can give you is, number one, before you even move a single stick of furniture into the new place, take lots of pictures of the place. Do it twice, when you move in, when you move out. Also, in terms of documenting the condition of the place, do an inspection checklist. You can, it's a paper form that you can fill out, and you want to do that when you move in and identify any existing damage. Can't tell you how many times I've met with students who are being charged for damage that was already there, that the landlord already acknowledged, but because it wasn't an inspection checklist or written down upon move-in, students are getting charged for it. So keep that in mind too. If when you move out, you want to give 30 days prior written notice, even though the lease might say that it ends on June 1st of next year, you still want to give 30 days prior written notice. Also do a pre-move out inspection, and anytime you need repairs, put them in writing. Contact our office if you have any questions about lease review. And the last thing I'll say is, as Corporal King mentioned, I think it's really important for you to keep in mind that if you do have any interactions with the police on or off campus, obviously safety is the most important thing, both for the officers that you're dealing with as well as for yourself. You absolutely want to be honest and truthful. And here's the other thing: as your lawyer, I want to advise you, you don't have to say anything. Do not lie. Do not say that you go to San Diego State. But if you are asked questions and you are concerned about what getting in trouble, you absolutely have the right to remain silent. So keep that in mind. You do have to say, I wish to remain silent. And then, of course, if you've watched enough TV shows and movies, you'll also have heard this, the line, I want a lawyer, I want to speak to my lawyer. You absolutely have the right to a lawyer as well before answering any questions. It'll end any conversations. It'll make things more complicated. It'll definitely slow down the process, but it's the best way to protect your rights. So keep that in mind. Next slide, please. And that's it. So my office is in the Student Services Center, same one as the Croutons office, where the Croutons, the salad place, as well as a few other offices where you get your campus ID cards, for example. We're up on the 5th floor. We're not there much these days, thanks to the pandemic. We're still meeting students virtually, but just give us a call if you have any questions or want to set up an appointment to meet with me. Thanks. Welcome to UCSD. We hope that you love it, and we hope that you'll reach out if you need anything from us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John Carlos. All right, next we have up Marianne Frapwell from CARE at SARC. Go ahead, Marianne. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chanel. Hi, everyone. I don't see you, but it is nice to pretend that I am virtually meeting you all. So my name is Marianne Frapwell, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the director of CARE at SARC, which is a lot of acronyms that stands for Campus Advocacy Resources and Education at the Sexual Assault Resource Center. Next slide, please. And so what CARE at SARC is that we are a free and confidential service to all UCSD faculty, staff, and students. We are a survivor-centered office that provides direct services, advocacy, and support to any UCSD affiliate that has been impacted by issues like sexual assault, relationship violence, and stalking. We provide support to survivors and their support people as well. So friends, roommates, family members, faculty, anyone who is wondering or wants support around how to best support survivors as well. Another portion of our office is that we also provide prevention education and trainings like this. And so we will go out into the UCSD community and provide workshops on active bystander intervention, consent, healthy relationships, how to support survivors, and sexual assault prevention. We also provide these trainings to faculty and staff departments as well. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to share a little bit, one, just about how services are working so that y'all know how to access us for the fall quarter, but then also some safety tips, thinking about scams, but also more generally for how to utilize dating apps and online connections for community in a way that helps you feel more secure. So in terms of direct services and advocacy for the fall quarter, I wanted to let you know that, so we have 3 full-time victim advocates in our office who are all confidential resources in the state of California, meaning that the conversations that you have with them will not be shared with anyone else without your direct permission. We don't bill insurance. We don't notify families of origin back at home. The conversations that you have in our office stay within our office. You can contact and get support 24/7 through the number listed on the screen. We contract with an outside provider that provides 24/7 crisis counseling support. They will also immediately send us a report if a student is looking to set up an appointment with someone in our office. You can also contact our advocates directly by emailing careadvocate@UCSD to request an appointment. We are still prioritizing, like John Carlos said, virtual appointments for the fall quarter. However, our advocates are on call for urgent needs, including some in-person accompaniments. However, most offices on campus are still doing a lot of virtual appointments this quarter. And so we can provide, we can be there with you if you have a Title IX hearing or an investigative meeting, or you would like to set up an interview with the police department. Trainings and educational programs are still also available virtually as well. And you can request a training for the group that you're in, the club that you're a part of, the class that you're in through our website and clicking on the program request form. Next slide, please. And so now I just wanted to share a few tips when we think about, right, some of these scams the way that Corporal King and John Carlos have talked about. Sometimes they originate in dating apps where you might have heard the term, or you might hear the term during your time in the United States of catfishing. There was a documentary a few years ago, and then it led to an MTV show. And the idea of catfishing is that someone sets up a fraudulent profile online, either through a dating app or through Facebook or Instagram, with the purpose of scamming someone in some way, either it be emotional connection or a financial scam of some sort. And so generally, it's always a good idea to exercise caution when sharing your own personal information over the internet. And at the same time, it's also a good idea to do some research if you can to see if the information that's on the profile of the person you're connecting with adds up. Do they have consistent photos? Do they have consistent bios over their Instagram, their Facebook, and their dating app pages? What other sort of backup information can you find about this individual to help support the fact that they might be a real person? Always feel free and please block and report suspicious or harassing users. If you are getting messages that you are not comfortable with, if you have sort of a gut feeling, and I'll sort of reinforce this at the end, but please feel free to report, to note, to block any users that you're not comfortable with. No one has the right to your time if they're not making you feel comfortable. And I also just want to highlight the importance of consent in online interactions, both for yourself and for your friends and community as well. And so even thinking about, when you're posting on Instagram or you're tagging the location of a group photo at a night out, just make sure that you get everyone's permission and everyone's consent to post or tag photos of them. They might also have things going on in their, individual lives where they prefer not to have a public presence, or they prefer not to be identified as being at specific locations. And so make sure that everyone is comfortable with that. I'm sorry, could you jump ahead one? Thank you. And same goes for never record any conversation that could be considered confidential without the informed consent of all parties participating. This is a California state law, and just also, again, providing folks control and consent in their interactions. And also, before meeting someone in person that you might have connected with online, consider video chatting with them first, just to confirm that you have a better sense of what they look like, who they are, and that what they look like over video chat matches the photos that they might have posted on their online profiles as well. Is something to consider is covering your webcam after using it with a webcam cover or post-it note. It is certainly less frequent than online scams and folks providing mistruths in their online profile, but there are downloadable viruses that can take control of the microphone and the camera in your computer that would allow someone else to observe you without your consent or without your knowledge, even after the video call has ended. And when meeting someone in person, consider meeting them in a public place or letting a friend know where you're going, providing just some of that support. So if at any point you don't feel comfortable, you have a way to remove yourself safely and with as little incident as possible. And again, most importantly, always trust your instincts. Our guts are really good indicators of when something doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't feel right for us. And even if it ends up not being a big deal, removing yourself in the situation is a great way to provide yourself safety in the moment and to help sort of remind yourself of your own inner knowledge and wisdom. And so if something feels off, it probably is. And so definitely just always take good inventory of how you're feeling in a situation. And if you don't feel safe or comfortable, it's okay to leave. And I also just want to note that safety strategies like this can be employed to help you feel more secure and to try to minimize risk in a situation, but it is never the victim or survivor's fault if violence occurs. So if you have questions about any of these things or need support, please reach out to a care advocate at careadvocate@ucsd.edu. And then the last slide I just wanted to put up is really just, again, ways to contact us. So please feel free to reach out, through either of our emails, through our 24/7 helpline, or even get a better sense of our office and who we are at our website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marianne. All right, next we have Andrew Weidler from Student Financial Solutions. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew Weidler. I work at Student Financial Solutions. Next slide, please. And our office is primarily responsible for managing your student account here at UCSD. Every student has a student account. So this is where you're going to see all of your charges, your fees, and paying the actual bill itself on Triton Pay online. So the biggest and most important way to avoid any sort of tuition-related scams is that very first line there on the slide, protecting your login credentials. You should never share login account and password with anyone, including family members, friends. Those credentials should stay just to yourself. If you do have a parent, a family member, someone else who you want to authorize to be able to make payments on your behalf, you can authorize them as an authorized payer. They would have their own account, their own login credentials. This would be their way of submitting payments on your behalf, but you should never, ever give those people your own login credentials. So again, if there's one takeaway from what I'm going to tell you today, that would be it. The next really important part of this is to only use official university accepted payment methods. And I'm actually going to go through those very briefly on my next slide. But there are a number of third parties and other scammers who would offer to pay your tuition for you for some sort of small fee in exchange. And often they never actually end up making the payment for you. So again, only using official university accepted payment methods. And of course, avoiding solicitations, as everyone has talked about so far in this presentation. You want to be very careful with who you're talking to, who you speak with on the phone, what emails you respond to, even what emails with links in them that you click on. Anything like that can be dangerous if you're not sure of who you're receiving an email from, who you're receiving a phone call from. The best thing to do is just either delete the email or hang up on the phone call. I saw this question in the chat earlier, and Sergeant King responded to it. If you do get that phone call, you're not sure what's happening, you think that it's a scam, hang up immediately, contact the police, notify ISPO for additional resources on campus. Again, you don't want to be a victim, always want to be safe, trust your instincts, and avoid talking to anyone who might be trying to take advantage of you. Next slide, please. So these are just a quick run through of all of the accepted payment methods here at UCSD. The first is going to be e-check, which is UCSD recommended payment method. There is a 50-cent service fee for it, and it must be linked to a US bank account. If you do not have a US bank account yet, or if you do not plan to get a US bank account, I'm going to skip down to the Flywire and Western Union payment options for international students. These are our two partners for international payments. You can access both of these via the Triton Pay portal, where you view and pay your bill. So these are great options if you do not have a US bank account. We also accept credit card payments. I do want to point out that there's a 2.75 service fee per credit card payment. We do not receive that 2.75. That goes to our credit card processor. So usually we only recommend credit card payments if you have a smaller amount that you're paying. Otherwise, that 2.75 might end up being a little more expensive. You can also pay with cash, personal check, cashier's check at the cashier's office. Do not mail in cash payments. If you do want to pay in cash, be sure you do that at the central cashier's office. The central cashier's office is now open in person, so you can go there to submit your payments. And lastly, we do have a series of third-party and 529 payments that we can accept. Typically for third party, those are going to be either military or embassies with other countries. So there's very specific third party who we will accept payments from. And for more information about third party payments, you can visit our website, sfs.ucsd.edu. If you go to the next slide, please. And this is just a quick rundown of our different contact methods. I want to point out that we actually are not offering virtual advising right now. I forgot to update that part of the slide. We are back in the office though, Monday through Friday here on campus. We're located also in the Student Services Center, 3rd floor. And if you visit our website, sfs.ucsd.edu, you can find a link to sign up for appointments at our office. If you are still living abroad or living outside of San Diego, we recommend that you submit a ticket with our office. You can do that at support.ucsd.edu/students. You can also give us a call. We're taking phone calls Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And then you can also follow us on Instagram at UCSDSFS. We post monthly reminders about the billing due date. Speaking of which, our fall quarter bill is due this Friday, the 17th. So please be sure to make your payment by then to avoid late fees, holds, or being dropped from your classes. And if you ever have any questions about your bill, about the charges on your account, please feel free to reach out to us. If you're not sure if a charge is legitimate, we can certainly put your mind at ease as well. So thank you again for letting me present today. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A.
Thank you very, very much, Andrew, and to the rest of our presenters for being here with us today. We've now reached the end of our session. We do have a couple of minutes. Oh, actually, we are out of time. So unfortunately, that's all the time that we have together today. I do have a couple more slides to go through, and I do see that so our Q&A is open and our presenters will be answering questions on there for the next minute or so. But if you do have questions, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on iwebinars.ucsd.edu, and you will have access to the links here. But this page does have the contact information for all of the departments that our presenters presented on today. Next, I just wanted to share with you meetups that ISPO does have available. Meetups are a great way to meet other international students at UC San Diego. We're offering 2 different kinds of meetups, interest-based and regional. So to register for meetups, head to iorientationucsd.com/meetup. And I did want to also let you know what's happening at UC San Diego all year long. Our iEvents calendar is a live calendar that features globally engaged events hosted by student orgs and campus departments throughout the year. So head to ievents.ucsd.edu for the latest. And just a few reminders before we say goodbye. Please continue to register for other orientation sessions by visiting iorientation.ucsd.edu. We have sessions available through the rest of this week. At the end of this session, you will get an email with a survey. And filling out this survey is how we verify your attendance to this workshop and how you fulfill your 2 minimum requirement. So please fill it out. The browser that you use to open this webinar will automatically show you the survey link once we end this webinar. So please keep an eye out for it. You will also receive a post-session email tomorrow with the survey link reminding you to fill it out. If you have any questions, please email iprograms@ucsd.edu. Also, stay up to date by visiting iupdates.ucsd.edu and checking our UC San Diego email for weekly ISPO newsletters. Lastly, you can always contact ISPO at icontact.ucsd.edu and follow us on social media. Thank you all for attending today's session. Again, whether you're joining us from inside the US or from the other side of the world, on behalf of the International Students and Programs Office here at UC San Diego, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning. Have a great fall quarter, and we'll see you at our next session. Thank you.